Runecraft is a sacred power that has endured since the dawn of mankind. Those born into its grace possess a supernatural might that defies the natural order, marking them as the predestined leaders of all living things. In ancient times, the people hailed this power as a divine miracle, a blessing bestowed upon the world by the gods themselves. Yet among the countless runes, there exists one exception, the Asura rune. Reviled as a singular curse, it has been hunted without prejudice and without a shred of mercy throughout history. Those born with this mark bring ruin, without fail, upon themselves and everyone they touch. 7 years after this incident, in a small village, a few thugs are wandering, asking the villagers, but they didn't know anything. Why on earth would the Asura rune be in such a place? Combed through every shack in this tiny village, so he should get lost now. The thugs relent, angry that these old geezers are so loud, and they go back to their employer, telling him that they've searched far and wide, but they have found nothing. They say there aren't any runecasters in this entire region. The employer just sighs wearily and tells his bald employee to come closer a bit. With that, he begins to drain him of blood before killing him instantly. He apologizes for letting them go on a fruitless endeavor. There's no way the lot of them, with no runecraft or mana, could ever find it. However, he can smell it, that special sweet reek of ruin. In that same village, Van and Linda are called out as the thugs are gone, so they can come out now. Linda is glad to have fresh air once again, and Van lets out a sigh of relief, apologizing once again as he made those weird people come because of him. The man who rescued him says that nobody cares about that. With that note that they are both covered in dust, come to think of it. They always hide down there, don't they? Linda explains that Van likes it there, and he admits as such. This is where they saved him on that day 7 years ago, after all. So this place is his favorite place in this whole village. The man immediately toys around with calling him a precious kid, and also asks how the wedding prep is going. The woman notes that they are mostly done. They start as soon as the sun sets. Sure enough, when the sun does set, they all gather around a big fire, putting on their best for a very special moment. The officiant tells Van and Linda that from this day forth, they are now husband and wife. They should say a few words about their vows in front of everyone. Linda just puts her fist up and screams that she'll make sure he's dry and happy so that he forgets how to cry. That's it. Everyone cheers for her, as she's always been eccentric. But Van just apologizes for putting everyone in a tough spot again today because of him. At the villages he passed through in the past, plague, war, massacres, there have always been disasters that never ended. Wherever he went, the final screams of pain and this despair followed. He could not settle down, no matter where he went. If they hadn't taken him in that day, 7 years ago, he would have already been dead. So he still doesn't really know if it's okay for someone with the Asura rune like him to be here. Before he can say anything more, Linda just punches the ever-living shit out of him, making him fall down. If they were scared of that, they would have never even saved him when they first met 7 years ago. It would be a lie to say they were not worried. But when a real crisis hit the village after that, he was the one who protected them, not anyone else. They decided they should not worry anymore. Even if another crisis comes, they'll get through it together, just like that day. The villagers agree they'll protect him with their lives if they have to, but he is too soft for Linda at this point. Linda's parents know that they should finish the wedding now, and they both exchange one last vow before kissing each other. The Runecraft mage begins to laugh as he is getting really teary-eyed out here. Suddenly, the entire area where the wedding was taking place blew up in a green hue, covering everything in darkness. Van opens his eyes, which have been closed thanks to the light, and sees what he has always seen in the past: destruction and despair all around him. His mind begins to shatter, and he screams as he falls on the ground. He wonders what happened, and why it happened. His mind is not able to accept the death in front of him. Even Parley and Kara, they're all dead. But what is this? Why? Why did it happen? Before he can despair further, the Runecraft mage appears behind him, grinning, and then makes him skid across the ground before he stops in a nearby tree roughly. As he walks with Linda toward him, he tells him to hide well, as his Asura rune might show. If he is all hidden, then he will come. Vaughn asks who he is, and why he is doing this to them, but the Runecraft mage tells him he doesn't need to know. He has special business with him, the Asura rune he was born with. Someone else needs that rune's true ruin to be awakened. First things first, survivors are usually a pain to deal with, so he wiped out every nearby village around too. He should say that it's nothing personal, right? He's just doing what he was told, so he shouldn't hate him too much. This is a pocket dimension prison prepared for him by that very special person in there. 1,000 years, or 10,000 will pass in just a few moments. Time doesn't mean a thing in that place, although he will let him out when the time comes, so he should be good and wait. Not that even he knows when that will be. Before he is engulfed in prison, he sees Linda mouthing off something that makes him cry, even harder than before. Eventually, he wakes up in a bloody and violent place. He wanted to believe not everything was because of a single damn rune, but there was never really a way out from the beginning. In the end, his very existence only ever brought ruin and death from the moment he was born. There was never a way to escape this fate of his. If he had just accepted fate a little earlier, would everyone he loved have lived? Just this once, he allowed himself to dream, to think that things might have been different, that maybe he could have lived a normal life, but that's why they died. His vain hope, his greedy wishes of a normal life, killed everyone. He apologizes again and again and again, until he can't think of anything else, but also begs them not to forgive him. As he continues sitting, he wonders, if a god exists, why would he inflict such a cruel fate on him alone? What good are gods now? He is too tired, and it hurts so much. He doesn't want to live anymore, so he just wants to die as peacefully as he can. However, his mind immediately goes to what Linda mouthed before he got sucked into the prison, that it's not his fault, and that she loves him forever. This causes him to wake up from his self-inflicted death, and he starts to hate himself, as this is all his fault. It was all his fault. And yet what happens now? Peace, the voice says. How dare it? He thinks he has the right to end it. He does not get to die just yet. He still has something left to do. This feeling that has been growing steadily and is now consuming him entirely. Revenge. The Asura rune inevitably only brings ruin, but he does not care anymore. There is no ruin worse than this. That Runecraft mage said, there's someone who needs the ruin he carries, so he will make them feel it fully. He will show them what true ruin really feels like. He begs everyone to give him just a little more time, as dying can wait until he gets his revenge. To do that, he will have to break out of this pocket dimension. The fake vestiges of the people he killed begin charging at him, claiming that they died because of him. Van doesn't care though, whether it takes 1,000 or 10,000 years. He will have his revenge. He swears it. With that, 200 years pass, and then 400, 600, and he still keeps doing the same thing, fighting. The boy who would walk the Asura's path danced within ruin, yet he still did not know the true hidden power within the Asura rune. Before long, on the eve of the 1,000 years, as he fights an incredibly powerful enemy, he begins to shift. He is drenched in blood at the bottom of hell. Endless agony befalls him, yet the fire of vengeance in his heart is not quenched. The giant beast he is fighting smashes his fists into the ground, pummeling him into the dirt without prejudice, killing him at last. Perhaps he is able to rest. However, something from the past appears in his mind. He asked Linda what her dream was. She said it was to marry him and become his wife. After that, not too much and not too little. One son, maybe one daughter, and a home where they can always come back to, smiling, and a fence around the family home to keep everyone safe. That's her dream. Unfortunately for him, this was the catalyst from the boy who had suffered for millennia. The true power of ruin is now unleashed. The Asura rune seeps out of him, and all the anguish and despair he has ever felt transform into incredible power, one that resembles a nuke. This is the true power of Asura, the god of ruin. Power had awakened that day. Would he have been able to save everyone? It must be so, right? He looks at the mighty creature in front of him and punches the air so hard it sends it flying into the dirt. But he doesn't stop there. As he jumps in the air and uses his first manifested armament, the Annihilation Fist, a gauntlet imbued with the power to annihilate matter on a particle level, he smashes this fist into the beast's head with so much force that it thunders throughout the entire hellscape, making it recoil backwards. That day, in that same mountain range where the village was, a few thugs are shaking people down. But since they don't have any money, they will be generous and take only a few organs. Suddenly though, Van appears as he wants to ask something. What year is it now? The bandit leader is confused at first, but then pats him on the head with a manic grin and notes that he is a rather curious young man. Why does he ask? Van thinks about it, as a thug silently goes behind him, and the bandit leader gives him the signal, making him attack Van, but his weapon just breaks on his head. It appears that only 5 years have passed in the mortal world, right? Everyone is confused about what just happened, and in response, Van unleashes a bunch of spikes toward everyone, killing them instantly, and summons his fist, once again annihilating the leader by shattering him in pieces. One of the thugs is in complete shock. Van has left him alive strategically, as he wants to ask him just a few things. This is the continent of Atun. Since ancient times, countless kingdoms have been founded with the power of runecraft. Among them, the one praised as the greatest kingdom in the history of Atun is the Zoe kingdom. It has dominated the continent as a hegemon for many, many years, relying solely on its overwhelming strength. Vaughn understands, so he is saying that the clothes this bastard was wearing are only worn by sorcerers affiliated with the royal family of the Zoe kingdom, and he has actually seen him in the past. The bandit confirms as such. He is extremely serious. How could he possibly lie in this situation? Van has tied him up upside down in a tree and tells him to continue speaking, so the bandit adamantly does so. 5 years ago, a mercenary named Kesarak, who had personal contact with Sir Digyol, the owner of their bandit den, made a request for them, saying that it came from a big shot. He said it wasn't anything special, just finding someone and clearing out a few villages. He would pay lots of money, so he thought this was an easy job to do. He said it was a big shot, but they never thought it would be a sorcerer from the Zoe kingdom. From their side, there was no reason to refuse, so they accepted immediately. After all, they were bandits, so it wasn't a big deal, right? They cleared them off without a single trace. It was tough to burn all the corpses, because there were so many, so they had to work pretty hard that day. After finishing the job, the sorcerer with the purple head left neatly after paying the money, of course. Among the corpses, was there a girl with orange short hair? The bandit confirms as such. She caught his eye instantly. That corpse was probably burned too. Her face was really pretty, so it was a real shame she died that way. If she had been sold as a slave, she would have fetched a really high price. Suddenly Van remembers the ones he loved, and he naturally takes his anger out on the bandit, killing him instantly. At the Digyol mountain hideout, the bandits are moving a bunch of slaves, pleased to see that they are looking so fresh, and they are pretty rebellious too. The livelier they are, the better they sell anyway, so it's good for them. Suddenly someone knocks at the gate. It's the guy who Van killed last, noting that he's brought drinks, so he should open quickly. As he opens the door though, Van drops the head he was holding, and just punches the guard's head off cleanly. The other guard tries to retaliate in an instant, but Van just blocks the strike, causing the bandit to try and pummel him again and again. Van decides to dodge the incoming strikes before charging up his fist and telling the bastard to shut up with that. He takes them both out, and he begins walking inside, thinking that they're all insignificant pests, and they decided to play bandit, huh? He puts the people he killed down and asks the others where their leader is. As he wants to talk, he has something to ask after all. The bandits wonder if he has lost his mind or something. Does he have no fear? Does he even know where he is? Suddenly though, Digyol himself tells them to step back and get lost if they do not want to die. This guy is a sorcerer with runecraft, just like him, so this is not an easy opponent. He asks Van what he wants from him, and Van explains that 5 years ago, didn't a sorcerer from the Zoe kingdom ask them to do a job? A mercenary called Kesarak arranged the meeting. Digyol is surprised he figured out so much from just his men. So what is it that he wants specifically? Vaughn just wants him to tell where that bastard Kesarak is, then he will spare them all. Digyol is impressed. Well, he will tell him where his body will be strung, that is. He tries to punch Van with his power, but he simply meets his strike and pushes him back. Digyol notes that if he wants to lie about sparing them, then wouldn't it be wise to hide the magic power that is covered in killing intent first? He will be the one to die here today. This guy has the blade rune, which arms one's entire body with sharp, hard blades. Van, who has been thrown back, expected as such. It's not easy to solve things through just conversation, right? Before Digyol can even notice, he charges in again and unleashes a devastating gut punch that makes Digyol cough blood. However, he does not relent and charges more power into his fist before trying to crash it on Van, but he just dodges. Seeing that he is acting like a rat, Digyol retreats slightly and begins spinning around, unleashing a bunch of spikes everywhere. Even if he is young, a sorcerer is still a sorcerer. From now on, he will not go easy on him anymore. He wonders how he will feel when he gets torn apart. He probably won't be able to move a single step. However, Vaughn simply walks through the Valley of Blades, shocking him. How can he just let himself be cut like that? He tells him to stop, making him laugh. This kind of itch, these little scabs and scratches, cannot be considered true pain. Digyol appreciates how passionate he is, so he changes tactics. He raises himself high in the air before putting all of his power into his fist, making it much larger and much more deadly. He wonders if he can survive something like this, but Van knows that at best his skin is peeled off while he will still live. The only thing he needs to do is cut off his nerves. This is shallow. This level of pain is way too shallow. The swamp he fell into that day, the hellscape he survived, could never be compared to this shallow experience. He meets Degiol's punch with one of his own, and pushes so hard that it gives the bastard no time to react, and kills him instantly with the punch that goes even through the mountain, clearing up the sky with a rather beautiful circle. Van lets out a sigh of relief. He hasn't pushed himself that far in a long time, but now they shall pick up where they left off. Before long, most of the bandits are killed. He has naturally left one alive to speak. So this bastard called Kesarak is in the Nordia kingdom right now. The bandit confirms as such. He vows that he is speaking the truth, but also wonders if he will spare him as promised. Vaughn wonders when he ever promised such a thing, scaring the bandit. But then he laughs, claiming that it was just a joke. The bandit sheepishly laughs too, thinking that it was pretty funny, but before he can excuse himself, Van just kills him. He meant sparing him was a joke. Why was he even laughing? That night, as he begins walking, he thinks that if he had his way, he would just go and invade the Zoe kingdom right now, but he can't just believe these bandits and act. Even if it takes him some time, he will need to meet that bastard Kesarak and confirm it himself. So he begs everyone to wait just a bit longer. In return, this is his small present, because he lacks any artistic sense. Even if they don't like it, they should be satisfied with this for now. After all, this is just a small achievement in the revenge that will be coming. He throws a torch, burning the effigy of corpses behind him, and thinks that it's time to go to the Nordia kingdom. He makes his way to Nordia kingdom with relative ease, and on the Guild Street, in a very, very dark alleyway, he punches out the last of the thugs he met. The last guy, who is barely conscious, explains that Anna Dalton knows everything in this city. Van understands, but they really should have started talking from the beginning. Well, he should thank them for the info, right? At least they were able to give it out through their screams. For his next step, he will have to find out where that woman is. In a situation like this, he cannot afford to delay even for a moment, because there's no guarantee that something like yesterday won't happen again. The day before this, his magic power suddenly began to run wild like crazy, but nothing like this happened while he was locked up. Magic power is an unknown particle that cannot be seen with the naked eye, but it is spread throughout the entire universe. A person who accumulates this magic power floating in the air within their body and manifests the ability of Runecraft through the accumulated magic power is called a sorcerer. In other words, the sorcerer's body is a vessel that holds magic power. If the magic power runs wild within the sorcerer's body, he will die. If this continues, Vaughn knows that his body will explode along with his magic power. He must seal it immediately to stop the rampage. That is how he managed to stop himself from dying, although barely, and his hair grew short too. For some reason, since he's sealed most of his magic, he can use a very small amount for now. If he continues to abuse his magic power, then it won't end with just his hair burning. In order to fully use the sealed magic, he must find out why the rampage happened in the first place. Until then, he has no choice but to get used to this small amount of power he has available. He continues walking through an alley, but suddenly bumps into someone, noting that they are in the way so he can't get past him. The man, who is actually 18 years old, explains that Madame Anna Dalton is currently using this entire area, so he should go back. Van understands he should have said so earlier. It seems that he found the right place after all. With that, he punches the bouncer away, not to kill him, but simply to knock him out. With that, he walks inside of the place, telling him to stay asleep for just a bit. As he enters, he is met with 3 people who wonder who he is. They told the owner not to receive any guests today. What is that bouncer even doing, not being able to stop a kid like him? He explains that he is looking for a mercenary named Kesarak. He heard that there's someone here who knows that bastard. Some woman is surprised to think someone would dare go around calling Sir Kesarak by his name. Does he know that he will likely die without anyone knowing if he continues like this? Vaughn doesn't pay them any mind, but seeing her reaction, it seems like he's found the right person. He wants to know everything about him, and Anna thinks that he really is a crazy bastard, and tells her guardian to rip off his mouth and bring it to her. This is Anna Dalton, Nordia Kingdom's #1 black market information broker. Her guards immediately agree, and begin surging with mighty power, transforming their bodies completely, until they all look straight out of a furry convention. With that, they swiftly charge at Van, who just tightens his bandages and notes that he wanted to finish this through conversation. Has that art been lost in the 5 years he's been gone? He punches one of them in the chin before pushing him away with a punch to the chest. Another tries to take him by surprise from the side, and the third one tries to pounce on him as he jumps away, but he is able to dodge all of their strikes, leaving them a bit puzzled and in awe. With that, he jumps in, unleashing some of his power so that his punch, which goes through one of them, goes through both of them, and even through the ceiling, making the clouds disperse again. He turns to Anna and asks if she wishes to have a peaceful conversation now. Now she understands. He's a sorcerer. Not just any young fool, huh? But what should she do? Sir Kasorak isn't here anymore. Anna gets up slowly, noting that she is someone who sells information for a living. She can't just give that out unless she is paid. Van thinks they're having a misunderstanding right now. He is not a murderer. They came running at him, trying to kill him, so he just killed them. If she provides information, then he is willing to pay a fair price. Anna thinks that information about Kasorak, including his current movements, would run him 10,000 gold. That's more than a fair price for such information. Van thinks that's a large sum. He never really realized it would be this expensive. Anna just shrugs. If he doesn't have any money, she can't just give out information for free. With that, Van just walks away. She just needs money, right? She should wait patiently for a while. Anna is a bit amused and asks if he has a way to get money. But why is he looking for him anyway? With such a terrifying gaze, too. Did Kasorak kill his family or something? Van stops himself from pushing the door open and tells her to mind her own business before he decides to get that information for free. Anna just laughs as he leaves, as he is rather scary when he is mad. On the same mercenary street, Van completes his mercenary registration and immediately asks when work will start. The clerk tells him that the mercenary work itself is quick, but it usually takes some time for rookies because experienced veterans are assigned first. Van understands it might take longer than expected, but it doesn't really matter. He needs a way to make money anyway. If necessary, he had thought of threatening her to get the information he needed. However, that woman was no ordinary person, so there's no point in unnecessarily increasing his enemies. Suddenly, a woman arrives, claiming that she wants to request a mercenary job, but it has to be someone with no experience. The clerk is pleased to hear that, as the person right next to her just registered as one. Van confirms as such. He is the rookie who just registered, and the woman is pleased. Her request is rather simple. He just has to take responsibility for one night. This is Leon, 18 years old, and Van and the clerk just kind of stare for a while before Van calls her a crazy woman, and the clerk suggests a brothel if she wishes to get something like that. Leon explains that it's a misunderstanding. She was just trying to hire an escort, but Van just walks away, not interested in being any kind of thing for her. Leon tries to stop him, noting that he should listen to the compensation first, and then make a decision. Suddenly someone else approaches, a much larger brute, and asks how much the pay is. Leon explains that it's 10,000 gold, making Van stop in his steps. She apologizes to the man, but she can't hire a veteran mercenary with a well-known face like his to do it properly, so she should reconsider. He is much better than that kid would be, both in and out of combat. He begins grabbing her, finding it frustrating that he is trying to give her help, but she doesn't want it. Suddenly Van approaches, calling him garbage and telling him to get his hands off her, his precious employee, as filthy trash hands like his do not deserve that graceful touch. That night, somewhere in a dark forest, a village is being overrun by a man pleading with the bandits to at least spare his son. Naturally, they do not, and they report to their leader that these were just peasant houses, nothing worth cash. However, if they harvest the organs, the take should be decent. What do? Their leader tells them to do as they like, but more importantly, they should remember the job they took yesterday. They are snatching up the daughter of the Leon household, right? The support confirms as such, so the bandit leader tells him to pick the 3 best men and keep them on standby at all times. They should also hang this guy up and head out right away. The support net confirms as such, so he will have them on standby immediately before he can move, though he suddenly gets a smack from the leader and asks if he messed something up. Merkel says it's not that. It's just that one of these people, strung up alone, won't satisfy him at all. If they dissect him the same exact way and hang him next to him, it would be just perfect. The subordinate can't do anything to disobey, even if he wanted to, and the night is filled with his horrified screams. Inside the tavern, Van eats with Leon, who eventually smashes her fist on the table, being very unsatisfied with something. Van asks what it is. Does the food not suit her taste? Leon wonders who could swallow food in a situation like this, and he should also stop using that person as a chair. Van is a little confused that she wants to try sitting on him, but Leon says it's not that. She just wants to let him go. She thinks that this guy is a bit rough but extremely skilled, considering he beat up a seasoned mercenary. He is also a newbie with no paper trail, exactly the kind of merc she wanted. Van thinks the person's seat was comfortable, but Leon tells him not to use people as objects. Van understands and notes that they should go back to business. She hired him as an escort. So how far is he taking her exactly? She explains that they will go to the border of the Uhuana kingdom. They'll cut through the forest, so they'll be getting there in a day. Van doesn't understand why she would spend 10,000 gold on a simple escort. He's got a bad feeling this ties into something dangerous, like a scion of a powerful family house or a fugitive. He is not doubting her identity, but just in case, Leon explains that she is simply the only daughter of a somewhat wealthy family, and her father just dotes on her terribly. Van really doesn't know what to think about that, but when Leon notes that if he's too suspicious, she'll go somewhere else, he immediately sits back down. Suspicious. How could he be so rude to his precious customer? He asks when they will depart, and she says the sooner the better. So Van tells her that they will go right now, as he wouldn't want to waste his client's valuable time, right? She agrees, and with that, they make their way through the Gaseoso Mountains. As they continue walking, Leon notes that they are about halfway there, and she's also glad that this has been peaceful so far. So good. At this rate, they will reach safety soon enough. Perhaps hiring a merc was too much. Suddenly, though, Van puts a hand up and tells her to hold it, as he definitely felt something, which was mana. He also heightens his senses and hears footsteps springing toward them. 3, 4, and one of them, especially dangerous. A sorcerer. He can see that sorcerer. But Merkel just unleashes a strike towards him, and notes that picking is a bad habit. Suddenly Van is almost overwhelmed by a strike, and he grabs Leon before dashing away from the blast. Merkel lands gently and tells his men to capture Leon's daughter alive. The other guy can die. Leon asks what this is, and Van guesses it was just a warning. The real strikes are probably coming. Sure enough, from his right side, the 3 assassins appear, with 2 holding Van in place, while the other goes for Leon. Seeing this, Van deflects the strikes of the 2 assassins, and goes for the one who tried to grab Leon, smashing his foot into his belly roughly. With that, as the other 2 assassins try to get him, he dashes away and grabs Leon again, putting her near a tree, a more secure position. He sighs and tells Leon that from this moment on, under no circumstances will she step from behind him. Leon immediately agrees, seeing that he is getting rather serious, and then asks who they are. Are they bandits, perhaps? The assassins tell him to leave the woman and back away quietly. If he does that, they will let him go. Van tells them that he will if they have 10,000 gold. The assassins call him a fool and charge in, using their combined powers and dual strikes to try and overwhelm Van, but no matter how hard they try, just with his fists alone, he begins countering each attack, not one of them actually grazing him. The dangerous assassins back away slightly. They were on edge, thinking he was a rune caster. But is he just a brat? Van asks where this came from. He was just being careful, but apparently that was needless. He did not expect them to be so stupid. Just with a bit of his power unleashed, he dashes in and unleashes a flurry of blows, which the 2 assassins immediately try to counter. But the sheer force Van is exuding blasts them away, soon enough shattering them into pieces like porcelain, creating a blast to the forest that permeates throughout, leaving only their feet behind. Van thinks that they are just a bunch of clowns, and Leon is shocked. This guy looks much younger than her, so how can he do something like that? If her father saw this, he would be shocked and thrilled at the same time. Merkel comes out of hiding, noting that rune casters often gauge each other's mana, and the amount of mana often matches the caster's skill. Van wonders how long he would stay hiding. Finally, he shows himself. Merkel was not done. That is why he is still just a kid. So how does he have mana on par with his? Was he born with it? Maybe he should dissect him first, since a caster like him must have splendid organs. This is the mad anatomist Merkel. He is the leader of the criminal gang. Merkel Gang. Big shock. They are perpetrators of murder, kidnapping, human trafficking, and other heinous crimes. He is pretty merciful though, so if he hands that woman over nicely, he will dissect him without pain. Van tells him to buzz off, so Merkel just tells him to die, unleashing a mighty strike. Van grabs Leon's attention, and notes that about her being an ordinary merchant's daughter. That was a very big lie, wasn't it? Leon tries to come up with an excuse, but Van just grabs her and tells her to save it. He puts her in front of the strike, making her cheeks blow out, and Merkel is pretty shocked too by what he is seeing, and by the fact that Van holds no remorse at all. After Merkel is barely able to redirect the strike, both Leon and he scream out, noting that they almost died. Merkel asks if he's not her bodyguard, and Leon agrees. He's a damn lunatic. She is his employer. Van is filtering all of that out though. He saw that twist in direction, in that fleeting instant, when he put Leon in front. This guy is a sorcerer skilled in the manipulation of mana. It seems his goal isn't to kill his employer but to capture her alive. Is he trying to kidnap her? Maybe that's it. He notes that he will overlook this transgression this time, even though Leon notes that he basically just tried to kill her. Van once again ignores her and tells her to stop arguing. He is going to throw her now. She will land safely on her own and stay hidden like a mouse, right? Leon agrees, but before she can wonder what she means by throw, Van grabs her by the top of her robe and throws her away like a quarterback, making her whistle through the air. Merkel asks what he thinks he's doing and jumps away, trying to rush toward Leon, but Van has just grabbed his foot before he can make it and holds him in place, unleashing a devastating punch that allows him to move in with another deadly uppercut. This makes Merkel skid on the ground and laugh audibly. Van is confused. He is sure that those strikes landed. However, it feels like they were blocked by something. Merkel has the psychokinesis rune, which manipulates an object's physical state using mana, the ability to discharge power in an instantaneous burst, like a shockwave. He tries to take Van out with one of these blasts, but dodges, and Merkel takes advantage of this by rushing in with a punch, which Van has to block. He knows that hand-to-hand combat is dangerous, considering this guy has a psychokinetic energy ability. However, there is nothing else he can do. He steals himself onto the ground and unleashes another punch, which Merkel blocks. He tries to grab Van, but he dodges, and instead unleashes a blast, which does not appear to have hurt Van at all. He tries to hit him again, but he is met by his formidable defense, capable of blocking by forming psychokinetic energy into a shield. Seeing this, Van backs away, thinking that this is a rather annoying Runecraft art. Merkel tells him that it's useless. In mana, they may be similar, but the abilities of their runes are worlds apart. If he comes under him, he will take him in, even right now. He doesn't know what that woman is paying him, but he could earn several times that amount with him, and much faster. Van says he was promised 10,000 gold, making Merkel laugh. They can make that kind of chump change by hitting just 2 villages. He is getting paid far too little for his skills. Van asks if he said that they are hitting villages, and Merkel confirms as such. They do assassinations, kidnapping, robbery, human trafficking, do it all. No questions asked. That's their motto, and they make a killing while doing it too. So does it sound tempting? In response, Vaughn just smiles, and Merkel thinks that this is an agreement. He knew it. His judgment of character is perfect. He'd like to hear about it, wouldn't he? Van disagrees. He is laughing at him for being so pathetic to think he was actually having a conversation with a vermin dog like him. He has made up his mind now. He is going to tear him limb from limb until he becomes unrecognizable to the rest of his subordinates. Van begins pummeling his barrier, but he doesn't get it. He told him that he cannot break through. Van, however, doesn't care, and keeps pressing the attack, unleashing 100 strikes in just 1 second, until eventually he makes a crack and actually shatters the kinetic shield, shocking Merkel. With that, he unleashes a devastating punch to his arm, tearing it off completely, before diverting his force and punching him in the chest, making Merkel fly away. After he lands, he notes that he is no longer interested in harvesting his organs. This will not hold back anymore. This is the price for scorning his mercy. He unleashes all of his power into himself, making the ground shatter around him as he uses the psychotechnic blood strike. As that strike flies, it thunders through the mountain, draping it in an energetic red hue. However, somehow Van is keeping it steady and not getting hurt at all, confusing Merkel. He was sure they had similar mana levels, so how on earth is he withstanding his psychokinesis? Van laughs. He thought they were on similar levels. He really is an idiotic bastard. He suddenly unleashes a bit more of his mana, shocking Merkel as he has never seen anything like it. This is the mana of a monster. Van is, however, done playing. He tells him that he will fall into hell, and they will meet each other there once again. With that, he unleashes the devastating Annihilation Fist, hitting Merkel a bunch of times before unleashing one final strike that goes through his chest. Van simply grabs his bandages and ties them up on his hands, letting Merkel suffer the consequences of his strike and blow up in a much brighter and much more powerful force. Now it's time for him to fetch his little employer. Pattern magic. It ranges from the power to arm the entire body with blades, the power to transcend space and time, and even the power to split the earth and pierce through mountains with ease, to defy the laws of the universe and surpass the laws of physics themselves. These supernatural powers defy all, no reasoning. Among all those countless pattern magics, there exists the one known in history as the worst pattern magic. Because of the path of the boy who possessed the pattern of Asura, a new history on the continent of Atun has begun to awaken. Eventually, Van finds Leon as expected. She's safe. She immediately gets up in his face, asking if he's gone crazy. What the hell was he thinking? Suddenly charging in like that and throwing her away too. Van smashes his fist through the tree near her head and notes that she was hiding something from him, wasn't she? Before she can answer, he just sighs and notes that he is not that curious. He has safely escorted her as promised, so he just wants payment. Leon agrees and hands him the 10,000 gold. And with that, Van goes on his way, but Leon stops him. He looks behind, but then she decides not to say anything. She'd like to take him all the way to the family estate. However, she cannot drag such a young mercenary into the war. It's a shame, but it cannot be helped. First, she needs to hurry up and get back to her family. Van also makes his way to the third residence of Anna Dalton in the Kingdom of Nordia and hands her the cash, throwing it on the ground. She is surprised. She knew he had something up his sleeve, but Van doesn't care about pleasantries. He wants to know about the info she saved up for him. Anna agrees, but she will only take half the payment, making Van ask what she is getting at. Anna explains that she has failed to pinpoint Kasorak's whereabouts. That man is thorough beyond belief. Instead, she will tell him about someone who knows both information about Kasorak and his possible whereabouts. Van sighs and tells her to just spill it already. Anna asks if he's ever heard of a mercenary group called Tez, and Van hasn't, so she begins explaining. Teze is a mercenary group active in a variety of criminal fields like murder, kidnapping, and human trafficking. They also do assassinations, counterintelligence, espionage, sabotage, and so on. The leader of Tez is none other than Kasorak himself. About 5 years ago, Teze began rising rapidly, and now their influence is big enough to control a small fringe kingdom on the outskirts. It has become so big that it can dominate almost anything. Because of that, it's now hard to even locate Tez's main base, let alone track it. However, she is not such an easy woman to deal with. She managed to dig up the location and identity of one Tez executive. It's this guy right here. His long facial scars are the key features. He is a brutal assassin born with the pattern of concealment. He has never failed on an assassination so far. Van understands. If he is a part of Tez, he might know where Kasorak is. Van asks where this guy is now, and Anna explains that according to her intel, by now he should be in the capital city of Valhalla, in the kingdom of Bogra. Sure enough, he is right there, and at the Merkel gang headquarters. Only disaster lies in front. A picture taken straight out of a horror story, and inside too, with hundreds of bodies lying strewn in all kinds of twisted ways. The remaining men try to run off, but they are easily caught and dispatched without prejudice. One of them wonders why he is doing this to them, and he doesn't really know. He is just following orders. They probably failed a mission or something. It seems Kasorak put their trust in them, and they failed. The man explains that this is only because no one told them there would be a monster-like guy as the bodyguard. Thanks to them, they lost their leader. The executive does feel bad about that, but even they didn't think Merkel would be taken down by some backwater mercenary. The man is confused. All this slaughter for just one failure? Is it not too much? The executive tells him to think of it as just punishment. They are both low-grade killers in any way. The man can't accept this and tells him to buzz off. Before screaming at his men to charge, it is now the time to take this bastard down. He uses the pattern of touch, which creates massive hands formed from magical power, freely controlled at will. With this, he manages to grab the executive and hold him in place while the others rush in with their blades drawn. The executive apologizes in advance for what he's about to do, and suddenly just disappears out of the man's grasp and appears back right behind them, letting them know that there is nothing they can do anymore. As the moon rises high in the sky, the executive comes out with someone else asking if he has taken everyone out. The executive asks if he's blind or something. Can he see the blood wash? If he doesn't believe it, he can also go in and check himself. The covered man wouldn't want to doubt him. He's sure he has handled it cleanly, like always. The executive tells him to get lost if he's done checking, but the man also explains that there is currently an investigation underway on the mercenary who killed Merkel. He has heard he has a black scar around his eyes and neck. The executive understands. If he's telling him this, then it means that he's another target. He needs to take action. The covered man is pleased to hear that he is as sharp as ever. No wonder Kasorak refuses to let him go. With that, the covered man leaves, and the executive pulls out a cigar to alleviate some of the stress. However, he thinks about those black scars on the eyes and neck. If it's the Bogra kingdom that's close to here, then it seems that their pets will intertwine soon enough. This is Scholar, a Tez mercenary, and a group executive. The next day, in a rather enclosed forest, Two kids are at the mercy of a powerful monster who looks at them like they're a bunch of bite-sized morsels. They really can't think of anything to do against this thing, and can only stare as the beast charges in with its mighty hands. Before anything can happen, though, Van charges in and unleashes a mighty strike right through the beast's belly, killing it instantly, leaving the two completely shocked as viscera and gore fall all around them. With that, the beast simply falls down, and Van, who has covered himself up, asks if they are all right. One of them confirms as such, and Van tells them that this area is crawling with monsters, so it would be best if they got out of here quickly. They are just shocked that someone saved them. They don't even know how they could repay him. Van tells them that it's nothing, but the girl tells him they can't have that. At least they'd like to treat him to a meal, as they have a shop nearby. Van declines as he is also looking for a shop in this area, and Ofun, the girl, asks the name of the shop as they know every shop around these parts like the back of their hands. He explains that he is looking for a tavern called the Blue Knight. Has she heard of it? Ofun thinks that's a huge coincidence, as that's their shop, but the boy Magath wonders if that's the case, as their shop isn't really the kind of place people will go looking for. Ofun notes that she is the cook at the Blue Knight, and this is her little brother Magath. She would also like to know the name of their savior if possible. Vaughn says that he is Ban, a very simple name change. Eventually they arrive at the Blue Knight, which stands in the Bogra kingdom's outskirts, and Saya, who has been waiting for them, is glad to see them back. He wonders what took them so long. They have already finished preparing all the ingredients. She explains that they run into monsters along the way. Shocking Sia. Are they hurt anywhere, perhaps? Ofun says it's all right. A kind person saved them, and he should meet them too. This is Ban. He is the one who saved them, and apparently, he was on their way to their shop anyway. Sia wonders why, but Ofun tells him to shut up and just show him in. After they go inside, she tells Van to take any seat he likes. Van is confused. Is it just them running this entire place? Ofun explains that actually, they are just living here, confusing him even further. She explains that, as he's probably noticed, they are not a real family. They all came from different kingdoms. For example, Lily and Ain lost their parents in the war. Sia's village was destroyed by monsters, and Magath's family was killed by mercenaries. They should have been dead a long time ago. However, a man brought them here and took care of them. Van understands. A man, huh? Ofun confirms as such. He is the owner of this shop and their first savior. Speaking of which, she wonders what he's up to. He's probably sleeping. He got back from work late yesterday. Ofun can't believe it. Well, she'll have to wake him up if that's the case, so he should make himself at home and enjoy his meal while she does so. Ofun just stands around and then goes to Scholar, asking how long he is planning on sleeping. He twirls around in his bed, noting that he needs 5 more minutes, but she tells him to stop sleeping and calm Magath down, as he almost died running into a monster on the way. He's probably really shaken up. This makes Scholar immediately get up and ask if they are all okay, and she explains that they're fine. A kind person saved them. Coincidentally, he was also on the way to their shop and saved them too. Scholar understands he can't just lie here if that's the case. He should go and greet them at least. She confirms as such, and points him toward the man, Van, who is now sitting at a table with his arms crossed. Scholar approaches him and says that he heard he saved some of his children. He thanks him for his timely aid. Van says it's fine, he was just passing by. Still, this is quite an interesting turn of events, isn't it? After all, he looks very much like the person he was looking for. They both stare at each other for a bit, and Scholar sits down, thinking that's impossible. Van agrees. However, an informant told him directly that the owner of this shop is a rather fantastic cook. Scholar believes that's a truly unexpected source, and Van asks if it's all right with him, of course, to see those skills up close himself. Scholar apologizes, as the children get really rowdy when he is in the kitchen, so he fears it would only disturb his rest. Van understands if that is his concern. How about they do it early tomorrow morning? Scholar agrees that at that time the children should all be asleep, so very well. Van is pleased that he agreed, and notes that he will retire early for the night. He needs his rest, after all. Scholar thinks that's a wise decision, and gets up, telling Ofun to please show this gentleman to a spare room. Ofun is surprised she has never seen someone warm up to him so quickly. What's gotten into him? Scholar doesn't face her, but his face is filled with rage, and he explains that perhaps they are just the same kind, so they naturally understand each other. Ofan shows Van to a room, noting that he can sleep here, and if he needs anything, he can also go ahead and ask them. Van tells her not to thank him, as it's not like he saved them on purpose. Ofan is left speechless and finds it strange. Scholar said the same thing when he saved her. Well, she will leave and let him rest. That night, naturally, Scholar makes his way to Van's room and tries to assassinate him right there and then, but Van simply grabs his blade and smashes him away. He has been waiting rather patiently for him to act, and it seems he has chosen a rather opportune time. Before all this, Scholar reported back to the covered man, noting that the caster suspected of killing Merkel was in his tavern right now. The covered man was actually pleased that it saved him a bunch of trouble. He should summon him there immediately using the formation. Scholar told him to wait. If he senses him, he might just run away. He will make sure he can't move around before he summons him. The covered man understood, but he would be waiting rather impatiently. Van notes that he can't believe him. He's taking care of children, but secretly killing people like a rat. That is absolutely disgusting behavior. Scholar apologizes for not being a better adult for him, but Van tells him to save it. He just wants to know where that bastard Kasorak is currently. Scholar is shocked. This bastard came here already, knowing everything about Tez. Whatever the case though, he cannot just tell him. Van expected an answer like that, but he wants to see if he can still say that after he cuts off his limbs one by one. Scholar gets in position too, and tells him that if he turns back now, he will pretend that he never saw him. Van is a little confused. Then, who was it that just tried to kill him in his sleep? Scholar understands. If that is the case, then they will do it like this. He suddenly activates something, which is a formation that goes around the whole room, and immediately takes Van somewhere else, which seems to be a rather pretty-looking cave, although it looks more like an arena. He knows what this is. It is a formation. He has heard a few mentions of it from time to time. Formations are Runecraft power inscribed into letters or images with mana poured in. The stored power can be unleashed at any point, usually cast through paper as a medium, but can also be set up using certain placements or objects. He wonders where he is now, though. Did that guy really run or something? Suddenly he is forced to dodge a strike from an unknown source, which he has only felt because of the mana. He continues dodging again and again before reclaiming his footing and rushing in with a mighty punch, which only lands in the wall of the cave. His opponent is long gone. Van looks around, but suddenly Scholar appears behind him, telling him that he shouldn't turn his back. He thrusts with his weapon toward Van, cutting his cheek once again, and he is getting increasingly more annoyed by this. He jumps away, and thinks that he can't see him with his naked eye, and cannot sense his presence either. Not even a sound reaches him, so this must be his runecraft, right? Scholar gets up and looks at him from down below. Indeed, this is his concealing rune, which has the concealment ability, able to erase one's presence entirely. He charges in again with a strike, but Van just dodges and continues running. In a narrow, dark cave like this, dodging attacks is hard enough, but locating him is even harder. Scholar hits the ground again, Van using only the wind to dodge, and thinks that even so, this does not matter. He charges in. Scholar, thinking that he does not see him, however surprising even to him, goes straight for his body and clasps his hand around his neck. As he hoists him up, he tells him that hiding his body will never help, as he can still see his mana after all. This is the second manifested armament, Truth Eye, eyes that can perceive even the faintest mana, undetectable to normal senses. Scholar thinks that this is impossible, and then smashes him into the ground roughly, creating a crater throughout the entire cave, threatening to cave it in completely. Scholar sits down, completely defeated, and explains that in his 40 years as an assassin, he is the second runecaster to find him with mana alone. Van asks where Kasorak is, but Scholar changes the subject. What did he think about his kids? They were adorable, weren't they? Though orphans have been a bit scary lately. Van doesn't care about his sob story. He grabs his hand and rips it apart, telling him to say where Kasorak is, or he will begin ripping out a lot more. Scholar understands it's under Kasorak's order that he has slaughtered countless people. He is a man beyond forgiveness. Van is getting annoyed. If he would like to confess one more time, then he will rip off his remaining arm. Scholar was not done though, even if everyone else condemns him, even if they only see the killer. He cannot die yet, not until he has protected the children, so he wants to apologize in advance. He pulls out another formation, and the covered man arrives on a wild beast, which punches him straight in the guts and sends him flying. The covered man is glad that he has finally found him, the runecaster who killed Merkel. He must say it is an honor. Van is getting annoyed and unleashes more of his mana. Couldn't he see that they were talking? Who the hell is he to interrupt? As Van was thrown away, he felt that the monster thing got in pretty deep, cutting his side quite roughly. The masked man takes a look at Van, and, just as expected, he has black scars on his eyes and neck. The fact that he even drove him this far makes it really seem like this is the person who killed Merkel, doesn't it? Scholar catches his breath and tells him to be careful. He found him using his magic. He can't even tell what level of sorcerer he is. The masked man agrees. For someone who looks so young, he is rather incredible. Van calls him out and asks if he is willing to answer his questions, and the masked man wonders what he is talking about. Scholar explains that he asked him where Kasorek's location is. The masked man apologizes, but right now, there is no one who will be able to answer his questions. This is another executive of Tez, Vergaten. Vaughn thinks that talking doesn't really work at all, so he jumps in again, but Vergaten's beast immediately reacts, trying to punch his punch away. Using this distraction, Scholar gets behind Van and tries to pincer him, but before he can, Van simply jumps away and strikes the beast again, who blocks his strike. Although he thinks that really wasn't the wisest choice, he uses more force and shatters the beast's hand completely, making it wail in pain. With that, he begins charging towards Vergaten, who is impressed to have achieved such great things as a sorcerer at a young age. He has never seen growth like it before, but what should he do? He can handle more than one after all. He is not limited to just one. This is the glyph of summoning. By summoning a subspace connected to another dimension, it is possible to store and retrieve anything as needed. Van notices the beast descending on him and thinks it doesn't matter. If he just has to knock them all down, then he will. However, using this minuscule amount of opening, Scholar dashes in with a strike, telling him that he's let his guard down. Van can't move now, his tendons having been cut, allowing the beast to just pounce on him and keep him in place. Vergaten is impressed. Even one of these would be more than enough to crush a normal sorcerer. Just what kind of glyph sorcery does he have? Is it a body enhancement or something? Van notes that he is the only one asking questions around here, and he'd better answer him right now. Vergaten loves his fiery personality, and he enjoys it a lot, so he has decided to make him into an assassin of Tez. Firstly though, he will have to make him into his precious little slave. This is the glyph of taming. It infiltrates the opponent's spiritual world, destroys their existing ego, and creates a new ego that the caster desires. Van is shocked to see two glyphs used at the same time, and Vergaten touches his scalp, noting that now he will be born anew. He gets inside of Van's mind, but only finds a valley of blood in a place that looks and feels like hell. Vergaten, with the glyph of taming, has made countless beasts and sorcerers into his willing slaves. This attempt never once failed. However, what Vergaten did not expect to see was this: a complete, perfect image of hell. A single boy, neither living nor dead, who has lived with a single-minded determination for revenge. For the longest 10 years of his life, he has spent it all training in the dark pit of agony, which is his own mindscape. The demon Vergaten is now seeing just smiles at him, before unleashing a bunch of grotesque-looking people, who immediately begin to clamp down on Vergaten, and he screams out, forcing himself out of his mind world, catching his breath roughly. Van is getting really annoyed now. He can't have him peeking inside his mind like that without even asking. Vergaten, before he can even say what he's seen, gets blasted by Van's punch as he has freed his hand.
Thank you for watching. See you next time.